Hello, beautiful soul buddies. You're welcome back again to this YouTube channel. It's your girl, Whitney IY. And if you're new on this channel, if you're just seeing this channel for the very first time, you are highly welcome. Please do well to hit the subscribe button and also click on the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I drop a new video. Guys, I have a little story of how my camera almost frustrated me while filming this particular video, but not to worry, I'll gist you the story as we go on. So this video is a tutorial on how to make this elegant stylish top that has this asymmetric split hem with a funny type of sleeve and a near built up asymmetric neckline, and everything you need to know about this top is all detailed out in this video. So if this is something you have interest in, then do well and keep watching, and also never you touch that dial. Here are some of the items I'm making use of for this top. I got this fabric. It's a crepe material and it's 1.5 yard. It has this design all over it and I fell in love with it and decided to get it for myself. You can get any fabric of your choice. You can get the plain crepe material if you wish. I'll also be making use of the long zip, yes, and also I'm making use of an ST. This is also very important, and I'll be making use of this plain black crepe material as the lining. Yes, you need a lining for it. So guys, these are some of the things, and also I'll be drafting this out on the pattern paper. Yes, this drafting will first of all be done on the pattern paper before I'll transfer it to the fabric. Now on that note, I don't know how this fabric behaves, if it's constrict or expand once you get to iron it. So to be on the safer side, I'm going to cut out 1 yard from this fabric and I'll go ahead and iron 1 yard of ST to this fabric. Yes, so I will iron ST to 1 yard of ST to the 1 yard of this fabric, so that way when I'm cutting out the pattern, I will know that I've already ironed in ST to this fabric. If you don't want to do this method, you can just go ahead and wait, and after cutting out the fabric, the pattern on your fabric, you can go ahead and iron the ST on each piece of the fabric. You understand, right? So for me, I want to be on the safer side. I don't want a scenario whereby after cutting out the pattern on my fabric and once I put iron on the material, it constricts once I'm ironing the ST. That way it's going to make the measurement smaller, and I don't want such scenario. So that's for that. And like I earlier stated, I'll be making use of the pattern paper for this. But for this particular top, I'll be making use of 2 pattern papers. Yes, 1 pattern paper for drafting out the front and half of the other pattern paper for drafting out the back pattern. Yes, the reason for that is, for other normal type of top, you just make use of 1 pattern paper for drafting out both the front and the back. But for this particular top, since the front, as you can see, it deals a lot with asymmetric style line, so for that reason you would need to fold the pattern paper into 2. You need to draft out the full front bodies. So the reason why we'll be making use of 2 pattern papers. So also I'm making use of the tape rule, the tape, the scissors, and the tracing wheel. If you don't have your tracing wheel, you can actually make use of your pen that is no longer working, that does not have ink inside of it anymore. You can make use of that in place of your tracing wheel if you don't have the tracing wheel. Also, I'm making use of these 2 colorful pencils. Yes, now I got a question if it is a must to always make use of a colorful pencil when drafting out a pattern. Please and please, it is not a must. Normally off camera, when I'm drafting out a pattern, I make use of the regular pencil for drafting out my pattern. The reason why I make use of colorful pencil is simply because when I'm filming and I'm using the regular pencil for drafting out, you won't get to see the lines that have been marked out. You will get to see everything that is being done on the pattern paper. But when I'm making use of the colorful pencil when filming, you get to see everything that I'm marking out, everything that I'm, putting on the pattern paper, you get to see it. So that's for that. Moving on, I've gone ahead to pick out 1 piece from the pattern paper, and I'll go ahead and fold it into 2 equal parts like this. Like I earlier stated, the reason for doing this is because I want to draft out the full front bodies, because the front bodies of this top has asymmetric style lines, so you need a whole piece of pattern paper for, you know, drafting asymmetric style lines out. So that is that for that. So this part of the pattern paper that is on fold, that has no opening, that is here, will be the center front. So with that being said, let's dive right into the drafting. Now I want this top to have a little built up asymmetric neckline. Yes, I want the neckline to have this little built up collar. So for that reason, I'll be coming down by 2 inches. You know, normally I come down by 1 inch to get the top line or starting line, but because of that, you know, built up neckline that I want to do, I'm leaving 2 inches space for that, you know, to draft out the neckline. So I'll go ahead and connect the dots together to get straight line. Next is to draft out the basic bodice now. So the first step is to divide your shoulder measurement into 2 and mark it out. So my shoulder measurement is 16 divided by 2 gives me 8, and that's what I've marked out here. Then I'll go ahead and mark out the armhole depth. Now, to get the armhole depth, you divide your round bust measurement by 6 plus 1.5. So my round bust measurement is 41 divided by 6 plus 1.5 gives me 8.3, and that is what I've marked out. So here I'm just making sure that I have the same shoulder measurement here, so that I get a straight line when I'm connecting the armhole depth to the shoulder like this. So now that I've done this, the next thing is to mark out my neckline, and I'll be making use of 3 by 3. That is 3 inches for the neck width and 3 inches for the neck depth. So I'm just marking out the regular basic neckline, and I'll connect the neck width to the neck depth like this. So after connecting, the next step is to go ahead and come down from the shoulder by 1 inch here, and then I'll connect this 1 inch to the neck width to get that shoulder slant or slope. And like I will always say, this is because our shoulders are not straight, it is quite slanted, so we need to do this. Next, I'll divide my round bust measurement by 4 and mark it out to get the chest line. So my round bust measurement is 41 divided by 4 gives me 10.25, and that is what I'm marking out right here. And I'll go ahead and bring in my rule to connect this marking straight down like this. And this, of course, is my chest line, or the chest line is referred to as a chest line. Next, I'll get the midpoint from this shoulder slope to the chest line by placing my tape like this and folding it over like this, or whatever you get, you divide it by 2 and mark it out like this. And after getting the midpoint, I'm going to go in by 0.75. Yes, 0.75 like this, and I'll connect these 3 points together. So please take note that this is the front pattern that is being drafted out. So I'll go ahead and connect these 3 points together to get the armhole curve. So now that I have the armhole curve, the next step is to go ahead and mark out my bust point. So to get your bust points, measure from your shoulder to your nipple. That is how you get your bust point. So for me, it is 11 inches, and that is what I am marking out like this. So after marking it out, I'll also go ahead and bring in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line. So this is me just drafting out the basic bodice pattern. Yes, the full basic bodice pattern. So this line is referred to as the bust point. So after marking this out, the next step is to mark out the front waist length. Yes. So the front waist length for me, it is 17.5 inches. So that is what I'm marking out. So you measure from your shoulder to your front waist, and whatever you get, you mark it out. So that is it. So for me, it's 17.5, and I've connected the dots to get a straight line. So this line is referred to as the front waist length. Moving on, it's time to mark out the hip line. So from the waist down, I'll mark out 8 inches. This is my hip line. Now, for getting the hip line, if you are working with a very short person, let's say you're drafting for a very short person, you make use of 7 inches from the waist down to get the hip line. If the person is of an average height, you make use of 8 inches. If the person is tall, you make use of 9 inches. And if the person is extremely tall, you make use of 10 inches from the waistline for such an individual. So for me, I'm of an average height, so I'm making use of 8 inches. So from my front waistline, I'm marking 8 inches, and I'll connect these dots to get a straight line like this. And this line is referred to as the hip line. Yeah. So now that I have all of this, it's time to mark out the dart line. So to get the dart line, you divide your bust span measurement by 2. So your bust span is from one nipple to the other, you measure it, and whatever you get, you divide it by 2. So for me, after dividing by 2, I have 4 inches, and that is what I've marked out on the bust point, on the waistline, and on the hip line. And I will connect those dots to get a straight line like this, and this gives me the dart line. So moving on, I'll go ahead and come up by 2 inches from the hip line. So this time around, I'm drafting out the basic darts for a basic bodice. So you go up by 2 inches from the hip line, and from the bust point you come down by 1 inch like this, and on the waistline you go in and out by half an inch. So here you mark half an inch from the dart line, and on the other side you also mark half an inch from the dart line, and you connect all of those points together to get your basic dart, right? So that is what I am doing right now. So that's what I am doing right now, connecting the points together like this. So now that this is done, the next step is to mark out the round bodice measurement. Now on the waistline, I'll divide my round waist measurement by 4. So my round waist measurement is 33, divided by 4 gives me 8.25. Now 8.25 plus this 1 inch here for the dart intake gives me 9.25. So I'll go ahead and mark out the 9.25 here like this, and I'll connect the bust to the waist measurements like so. Now on the hip line, I'll also divide my round hip measurement by 4 and mark it out. So my round hip measurement is 40 inches. 40 divided by 4 gives me 10 inches. And that is what I'll go ahead and, mark out like this, 10 inches. And I'll connect the waist to the hip measurements like this. At this point, the next stage is to mark out the bust dart. Now, to get the bust dart, you subtract the back waist length from the front waist length. Now, my front waist length is 17.5 and my back waist length is 14 inches. 17.5 minus 14 inches gives me 3.5, and that is what I'll mark out on the side here. And then I'll connect this to the bust point here like this. So right now my basic bodice is almost completed. So next is to bring in my tracing wheel, and like I earlier stated earlier on, if you don't have the tracing wheel, you can make use of your pen or biro that no longer works, that has no ink inside of it. Again, you can make use of the pen or biro if you don't have the tracing wheel. But for me, since I have the tracing wheel, I'll go ahead and trace out every line on this pattern that has been marked out. So I'm tracing out every lines. As you can see, I'm tracing out all the lines that have been marked out. That's what I'm doing right now. As you can see, please watch. So after tracing it out, when I open up this pattern, I'm going to see everything that I traced out on this side of the pattern paper. I'll see everything here on this side of the pattern paper. All that I've been traced out, I will see it on the side of the pattern paper, and I'll go ahead and bring in my rule and pen to mark out everything like this. So after tracing it out, the next phase is to just basically use your pen that works and trace out all the lines that you're seeing on your pattern paper. Now you can see that I have the full front bodice, and at this point it is time to alternate this pattern to get the desired top design. And the very first step towards that direction is that I'm going to draft out the neckline now. So I want a built-up asymmetric neckline for this top. You can draft out any type of neckline you want. Now for the built-up neckline, I'm going to bring in my curve rule to assist me with this. Now on your French curve, you're going to see these lines here on your French curve, and these lines are in angle 45 degree. Yeah. And you will be needing these lines. Now if you don't have the French curve, you can just simply go ahead and place your rule like this in a slanted line, and draw out a slanted line. It is also an angle 45 degree. Now on the French curve, you can see this point where the two lines meet up with each other. I'll make sure I place it directly on the neck width like this, and I'll go ahead and mark out this side of the angle 45 degree line, and I'll connect it to the neck width like this. So I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other neck width by placing the point where the two lines meet with each other directly on the neck width and mark out the angle 45 degree line. That is that straight line, the slanted line on the curve rule. I'll mark it out, and then I'll also connect this to the neck width like this. So after connecting to the neck width, the next step is to mark out how high you want your built up neckline to be. So for me, I don't really want this built up neckline to be so high. I don't want it to be that obvious. So I just will come up by 1 inch from the neck width. Now, if you want yours to be so obvious, you can come up by 2 inches from the neck width. So for me, I came up by 1 inches from the neck width on both sides like this. As you can see, I'll come on by 1 inch from the neck width on both sides. Now, the picture above is the built up asymmetric neckline that I want to mimic, but just that mine will be a bit wider. I also want this asymmetric neckline to be on the left side. I want it to be directed to the left side. So my markings will be directed to the left side on my pattern paper. Now I'll bring in my rule and draw a line connecting this 1 inch on the right side straight to the armhole on the left side like this. And on the other neck width, I'll be using the curve part of the curve rule here to connect the 1 inch to the straight line like this. Are you seeing it? So I'll use the curve part of the rule and connect the 1 inch from the neck width to the straight line like this. So right now you can see that we have that neckline drafted out, the one on the picture above. So you can see we have it all drafted out. But for me, like I earlier stated, I don't want mine to be this up close. I want it to be a bit wider. So I'm just going to clean this part because we do not need this again. This was just to help us in drafting out this neckline. So I want my neckline to be a bit wider. So I'm going to bring in my curve rule and widen this part of the neckline out like this. So I'm just trying to get a perfect way to widen it out. So I'll place it like this just to get a more wider neckline. So I'll place it like this. And I'll connect the 1 inch to the end of this neckline like this. So right now you can see it's now more wider than the way it was before. So right now I'll go ahead and use my colorful crayon to highlighten the neckline out like this, so you can be able to see it well enough. So this is what I have. So like I earlier stated, you can go ahead and draft out any type of neckline you want. It's not a must. It must be a built up asymmetric neckline. Whatever you want to draft out for your neckline, no problem. But for me, this is what I want. This is the type of neckline I want for this particular top. So I'm just erasing the pencil, yeah, so that it looks more presentable and, you know, neat. Now that I have this, the next step is to go ahead and blend out any sharp points on this shoulder. I'll go ahead and blend it out using the curve part of my rule, or you can also use your hands to just, you know, blend it, remove any sharp points on your neckline. So I'll just blend out the asymmetric neckline and the shoulder to remove any sharp point here. Now, if you wish to do gaping on your neckline, probably to remove excess from your asymmetric neckline, you can do that before you draft out your asymmetric neckline. But for me, I just felt there was no need for doing that because this asymmetric neckline was not that deep or, you know, too wide. So now that I have done this, the next step is to go ahead and start drafting out the older style lines on the top. And the very first step towards that direction is to determine how long you want the top to be at the side. Now from the waist down, you can come down by 3.5 inches or 4 inches or 5 inches. Now from the video, you can see how long mine was. So for me, I came down by 3.5 inches from the waistline on both sides. So from the waistline, I'll go ahead and mark out 3.5 inch from the waistline down. Like I stated earlier on, you can mark 4 inches down from your waistline or 5 inches down from your waistline. It all depends on how long you want your top to be at the side. So I'll go ahead and also mark out 3.5 inches from the waist on the other side of this top like this, 3.5 inches here. Now I want this top to have a little bit of flare, so I came out by 1 inch here. From the 3.5 inches that I marked out, I came out by 1 inch here on both sides, and I'll connect this 1 inch straight down to the waist. I'll connect it back to the waist. So please watch. I'll connect it back to the waist like this because I want it to have that bit of A shape at the side. So I'll also do the same thing on the other side as well. I'll go ahead and connect like this. Moving on, the next step is to go ahead and mark out the asymmetric split style lines at the hem. And in doing this, you have to determine where you want the split style lines to be situated, where you want it to be seated. So for me, I want it to be on the right side of this top. And after placing this pattern on my body, this is the right side of my pattern. This is the left side. And so I want the split style line M to be on the right side. So from the waist on the dart, I'm going to come down by 3 inches on both dart legs. Now you can decide to come down by 3.5 inches or 4 inches depending on what you want. So for me, I came down by 3 inches. So next is to determine how long I want the smaller split end to be. So for me, I want it to be 3.5 inches long. And after marking the 3.5 inches down, I'll bring in my rule and place it in a slanted way like this and connect the 3 inches on the dart leg to the 3.5 inches. So this is how long I want the smaller split end to be, and I'll connect the smaller split end to the side like this by placing my rule in this manner. So you can decide whatever curve you want for connecting this together. So right now you can see that this is the center front, yes, and it is obvious this is the midpoint of the full front bodies. So right now it's time to determine how long I want the longer split end to be. So for me, I came down by 3 inches from the hip line on the center front like this, that is on that mid line. I came down by 3 inches from the hip line, and I'll connect this back to the 3 inches I came down with on the dart leg. I hope you understand. So I'll be using this part of the curve rule. Now you can use any part of your curve rule. You can place your curve rule in any direction you want. You can use the straight line, the inward curve, the outward curve, whatever you want. So for me, this is the type of style line I want for this longer split end. So I'm connecting the 3 inches on the dart leg to the 3 inches that I came down with from the hip line on the center front. So next is to go ahead and on this other side, I want it to have an inward curve. So I don't want the straight line anymore on the smaller split head. I just want an inner curve. So that's what I am doing like this. So whatever you want, just do it, just do your thing. So right now, go ahead and connect the longer split end to the side as well by placing my curve rule like this as well. So I'm trying to place my curve rule well, and I will connect like this. So you can see that the design is already coming to life. So now that we have this, the next step is to go ahead and bring in my colorful crayon and trace this all out. I made use of the normal pencils, so I'll bring in my crayon and I lighten all the style lines that I've marked out using the pencil. So this is just me lighting everything out so it's more obvious. So that's what I'm doing right now, like this. Next step after doing this is to mark out this particular style line indicated on the picture above. And to do this, I need to close up the bust dart and also close up the waist dart. And to be able to close up this dart, I need to open up one of the dart legs. Now, if you intend to close up your bust dart without closing up your dart leg, you can see that it creates some form of tension on the pattern paper. Are you seeing it? So to avoid all of that tension, you need to open up one dart leg. So I'll go ahead and open up the dart leg on the side like this. So to do that, I'll just cut off this extra piece off. Please just watch. So I'll cut like this and then cut like this. So I'll cut off this particular dart leg. I'll cut it open rather. I'll cut open this dart leg and I'll cut it to the bust point like this. Make sure it does not exceed the bust point. I'll cut it to the bust point here, and then I can be able to close the bust dart. So I'll go ahead and pinch this particular line on the bust dart. I'll pinch it like this, and after pinching it, I'll go ahead and place it on the bust point line. So I'll go ahead and place it on the bust point line like this. So this is how you close your bust dart. So I'll go ahead and place it on the bust point line like this and bring in my paper tape to seal it close like this. So I'll bring in my paper tape to seal it close. So after placing it, you can see that the side is no longer equal. So you have to bring in your rule and your pen to, make it equal. So you just connect like this back to the armhole like this to get an equal side. Next, I'll go ahead and trim out the hem here. So I'll bring in my scissors and trim out the hem like this. Please watch. I'll trim it out like this. Trim it out like this. And next step will be to close up the waist that. So before doing that, I would want to, trim off this part that is disturbing me. I'll trim it out. And then I'll go ahead and close up the waist that like this. So please watch how I did the closing up. So I'll make sure that the waistline matches with each other like this, as you can see. So you can see that some form of tension is already being created on this pattern paper. You can see the pattern paper is no longer relaxed, but don't worry, we'll get to sort that out. So I'll go ahead and close up the waist dart like this. You can see the way I placed it on the other dart leg. Can you see the way I placed it on the other dart leg? So that's how you close up your waist dart, and make sure that the waistlines matches with each other. So I'm using my paper tape to seal it up totally. So please watch. So now that I've sealed it up, you can see it's now giving a curve, a bustier curve. So that's what you will get. So right now it's time to draw the style line at the side. So for the style line, you're going to come down by 1/2 inch from the bust dart. So I'm just trying to place this pattern paper well so you can be able to see it. Yeah. So I'll come down by 1/2 inch from the bust dart like this. So after coming down by 1/2 inch, I'll go ahead and draw out my curve like this. So I decided to use a curve rule first to curve to meet up with the bust dart a little at this point. Please just watch the way I'm curving it. Yes, just make sure you draw a curve to meet up with the waist dart. Make sure you draw a curve to meet up with the waist dart. The curve should get to the waist dart. Yeah, so this is the curve I drew to the waist dart. So I'm still trying to get a perfect curve that sits well with me. So that's what I'm doing. So from the 1/2 inch, I'm just trying to draw a curve to the waist that's like this. Are you seeing it? So at this point, I think I have a perfect curve. So I'm cutting out this particular piece. So this is piece 1, and I'll go ahead and cut it out. So as you can see, I've already drawn the style line for the side, which is this, and I'll go ahead and cut it out like this. So I'll also go ahead and cut out the waist dart like this. Please watch. So if there's any part that confuses you, just drop a question on the comment section and I'll try my best as much as possible to respond to you. So this is piece 1. I'll go ahead and set this aside. Now I'll go ahead and cut out this pattern like this. Please watch. So I'll cut like this. Then I'll cut the armhole as well, cut the shoulder, cut out the neckline as well. Now please, on the other side of the bust dart, make sure you leave space. I forgot to leave a space, so make sure you do leave a space for tracing it out once you close out the bust dart. Now at the end here, before cutting it out, you have to extend the dart legs. Now you can extend the dart legs in a straight manner like this, or you can extend the dart legs in the triangular shape like this. So for me, I'm just extending it in the triangular form. And right now, what I'm about doing is to create those gathers you see on the side dart indicated in the picture above. And to do these gathers, I have to close up these existing darts and transfer it to the side with the curved style line. And this is referred to as dart manipulation. So this is how dart manipulation comes into play. At this point, I'll go ahead and cut out the hem like so. And I'll also cut out the side dart leg like this, and I will cut it to the bust point. Always make sure it stops at the bust point. It should not exceed the bust point. So I'll cut it to the bust point like this. and I'll go ahead and close up the bust dart like so. The same thing I did on the previous bust dart. And right now you can see the reason why I advise you leave a little bit of space when cutting out the side, so that you have enough pattern paper to trace out the side and make it equal. So right now I'm using my paper tape to seal up the bust dart, and I've added an extra piece of paper at the side. So I'll go ahead and connect it to the armhole to make the side equal like this. So I'll go ahead and cut out the extra piece like this, as you can see. So after cutting it out, it's time to close up the waist dart. And to close up the waist dart, you go ahead and place it on the other dart leg like this, and you close it up using your paper tape. And while closing it up, make sure that the waistline are equal on the same points. Like, make sure the waistlines are on the same points like this. And then you seal it up using your paper tape, and you do the same thing till you're done sealing it up to the bust point and to the hem like this, as you can see. So right now you can see it's already giving that bustier curve, right? So that is that for that. That is that for that. Please don't mind me. So this is me just closing up the waist dart, yeah? And after closing this up, you can see that the pattern paper now has a bustier curve, and you can go ahead and just use this to cut out your fabric. Your pattern has to lay flat to be able to cut it out on your fabric. So that is where creating new lines comes into place. Now these new lines will be in form of the slash and spread method, yes, and that will give us the gather that will be on the side that will be on this side style line here. I hope you do understand. So I'll create a new lines, and these lines, when it comes to that manipulation, your lines should pass through or meet with the bust point. At least a line should meet with the bust point, or pass through the bust point, you get. So I'll go ahead and create my lines, and from this bust point here I'll create a straight line, draw out a straight line or mark out a straight line like this to this side. Remember, we're doing the slash and spread method now to get the gathers on this curved style line. So from this bust point I'll still create another line like this, and I'll draw another line like this, and from the waist here I'll go ahead and mark out another line in a slanted way like this. From the waist here I'll mark out another line, that is from the side waist here. I'll mark out another line in a slanted way, and I'm thinking of also marking out another line to meet up with the waistline here from the bust points. Looking at the picture, you can see that around the waist there's some form of gather around the waist as well. So that's the reason why I created a line from the side waist to the curved style line. So right now I'm just highlighting the lines with my colorful crayon so it's more obvious like this. You can see what I'm doing. So these lines are the new dart lines, but they will be in the form of the slash and spread method to give us gathers. I'm using the slash and spread method to give us the gathers. So these lines will make this pattern flattened. Yes, it will flatten out this pattern once I get to cut it open. So right now I'll go ahead and cut open these lines to the bust point here. You should not exceed the bust points. So when you're cutting it out, when you're cutting it open rather, you can see that the pattern starts to lay flat. It starts to relax well. So that's what we are talking about. So with this, once your pattern is relaxed, you can be able to, cut it out on your fabric. So this is what I'm talking about. So right now that I have this, it's time to spread out this new lines. It's time to spread out these new cut out lines, cut open lines, or whatever. You understand me, right? So I'll bring in the brown pattern paper. You can make use of the white pattern paper, but I just want you to be able to see everything and understand everything. So I'll bring in the brown pattern paper, and I'll go ahead and place my white pattern paper on it like this. And after placing it, I will carefully spread out this lines like this. I'll carefully spread it out like this. You can see what we have. I'll spread it out like this. And after carefully spreading it out, to make sure that my pattern is flat, I'll go ahead and, use my my sellotape to, hold this in place. I'll go ahead and use my sellotape to hold this in place to the brown pattern paper like this. So I'll go ahead and hold it in place like this. So I'll just be using my sellotape to hold it in place like this, as you can see. So I'm just making sure that the spread is even. Just making sure that I have a nice spread. Even if it's not even, I'm just making sure the spread is okay to my desire. So this is what I have. So right now I'll go ahead and pleat this together like this. So you can see when you're pleating it or when you're gathering it, it gives you the gathers at the side curve style line. You understand? So that is it for that. So I'll bring in my pen and I'll go ahead and trace out the style lines, because I'll be cutting it out. So I'll just go ahead and connect like this, so I'll know what to cut out. So I'll also pleat like this, pleat this point to meet up with this point as well, like this. So it's just like as if I'm closing up the lines again, just to mark out the style line that I have, the new style line that I have on this side. So please just watch, you understand everything that is going on soon. So I'll also go ahead and pleat this end to meet here as well, like this. So you can see what I have right now. You can see that it's already created gathers on this side. So I'm just connecting each point to meet with each point like this. So I'm just using my pen to trace it out. So this is what I have. So I'll just go ahead and connect what I have right like this. So this is what I'll be cutting out, as you can see. So just making sure I have it correctly. I'm just making sure what I have is on point. What I have marked out, I'm just making sure that it's on point. And once I'm certain that okay, it's on point, I'll go ahead and retrace it so you get to see it well. So this is it. And now that I have this, I'll bring in my scissors and I'll go ahead and cut this out like this. So make sure you notch the points where the two split end meet. Make sure you notch it where those splits, where they meet up. Make sure you notch it when you're cutting it out on your fabric. So this is what we have. So this is piece 1 and this is piece 2. So right now I'll go ahead and cut it out on my fabric, and in cutting it out, make sure you notch this points so you know where it is on your pattern, and notch your waist. Just give it a little snip. Yes, you notch you give your waistline a little snip at the side as well, and you can also give each of those points a little snip on your fabric when cutting it out on your fabric. Obviously you give it little snips. That's little cuts that is not up to 0.25 inch. So when cutting it out, I'll leave half an inch here, 1 inch on the side, half an inch at the style line here, half an inch here, and half an inch at the end, and at the side 1 inch for the seam allowance. Here half an inch, here half an inch, at the side here 1 inch as well, and also at the side here 1 inch here, and at the armhole, all those points here, that is these gathers here, half an inch. You leave half an inch for joining it to the piece 1. Yes, you leave half an inch. And on the armhole, you leave half an inch. On the shoulder, half an inch allowance. On the neckline, half an inch allowance here. And on the shoulder as well, half an inch allowance. And on the armhole here, half an inch allowance as well. I hope you do understand. So right now that the front pattern is all set, it is time to cut out the back pattern. Yes, it is time for me to cut out the back pattern, so I'll go ahead and bring in a new pattern paper to draft out the back pattern. So let's dive right into doing that. So this is the new pattern paper for drafting out the back pattern. As you can see, this is just only one piece, and for this you don't need to fold it into two. No need for doing that. So right now I'm coming down by 2 inches. Remember, I'm doing this because of the built up neckline that I decided to go for. So I'll come down by 2 inches and I'll connect the dots to get a straight line. This is the starting line or the top line. And after doing this, I'll go ahead and mark out my shoulder, which is 8 inches after dividing by 2. And I'll mark out my armhole depth, which is 8.3 inches. And I'm just making sure that I have my shoulder measurement as well, so that I get a straight line when connecting the armhole depth to the shoulder. Then for the neck width, I'll go ahead and mark out 3 inches from my neck width. Your neck width of the front and of the back has to always be the same. But for the back neck depth, 1 inch, I'll come down by 1 inch. Take note that the standard back neck depth for every individual, it is 1 inch. So I've connected the neck width to the 1 inch. Next, I'll divide my round bust measurement by 4 and mark it out. And I'll bring in my straight rule to connect straight down. This is to get the chest line. Next, I'll come down by 1 inch from the shoulder here like this, and I'll connect this to the neck width like this. And now I'll go ahead and get the midpoint from the shoulder slope to the chest line like this. Okay, the midpoint like this, and I will mark it out. Now from the midpoint, I'll go in by ½ an inch, which is 0.5 inch, and I'll connect these 3 points together to get the back armhole curve like this. Now that I have the back armhole curve, the next step is to mark out the back waistline. And like I earlier told you, my back waistline is 14 inches, but I mistakenly marked out 15 inches, which I later corrected after realizing my mistake. So this is me marking out my correct back waist length, which is 14 inches. That's what I'm marking out here. So to get your back waistline, you measure from the nape of your neck to the deepest part of your back. That's how you get your back waist length. So this is the back waist length. And next, from the back waist length, I'll go ahead and mark out my hip line, which is obviously 8 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark that out like this. And at this point, I'll bring in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line like this. Now this line is the hip line. Next is to do the back tightening to avoid any zipper budging. Now, if you're working with a very stretchy fabric, then there might be no need for stay or lining or zip on your back. But my fabric is a stiff fabric, so I need to do all of this. So for the back tightening, I will go in by 0.75 from the center back on the waistline, and I will connect this 0.75 that I went in with on the waistline from the center back. I'll connect it to the neckline like this, and I'll also connect this back tightening to the hip line like this. Now it's time to mark out the that line. So I'll go ahead and mark out 4 inches from the back tightening, and on the chest line I'll mark out 4.75 inch, and on the waist hip line I'll mark out 4.75 inches, and I'll connect all of those points to get a straight line. So I've explained why I get to do this on several of my videos. So if you still do not understand why, or you are new to this channel, I'll drop the link to the description box on how you can go ahead and watch it to understand what went on here. So from the hip line I went up by 2 inches, and on the waistline I came out by ½ an inch on both sides of the waistline, and I'm connecting this to the chest line, and I also connect the ½ an inch on both sides of the waistline to the 2 inches that I came up with from the hip line. So right now it's time to mark out the round bodice measurement. So I'll divide my round waist measurement by 4, which gives me 8.25, plus the 1 inch for the dart intake gives me 9.25, and that is what I'm marking. As you can see the way I placed my tape. So I'll go ahead and connect this to the bust measurement like this, and then on the hip line I also divide my round hip measurement by 4 and mark it out here and connect it to the waist as well. I hope you do understand. so please always watch how my tape was being placed. So right now this is what we have. So at this point it's time to mark out the neckline. You know, I'm working with a built up neckline, so I also have to do the built up neckline for the back pattern. I'll also go ahead and use the 45-degree line on the rule, mark it out, and then connect to the neck width like this. And from the neck width I'll go up by 1 inch like this on this slanted line. I'll go up by 1 inch like so, and I'll go ahead and bring in my rule and place it like this and connect the 1 inch straight down to the center back. So at this point I got tired and exhausted, so I had to group this video into two. So this video is the first video and the other video is the second, which is also the last video. So I'll drop the link to that video on the description box, and also that video, which is the last video, contains the sewing of this together, contains the drafting of the sleeve, and also the finishing of drafting out the back pattern. So if you enjoyed this video and if this video was helpful to you and you're yet to hit the subscribe button, like why are you wasting time? Hit the subscribe button and be a part of this amazing family. So see you in the second video. I love ya. So see you in the second video, guys. Yes, I'm so excited to see you make this top because it is very stylish, classy, elegant, and of course beautiful. And you can rock it on skirts, you can rock it on your pants, you know. It is so beautiful. You can even rock it on a pleated or a gathered skirt. It is so beautiful. Like, the compliment I got when I put on this top was overwhelming, and it was so guys, see you in the second video.